All right, it's 12 o'clock. Give it a few more seconds and then we'll start. We still have some people coming in. Thank you for being patient. And thank you, Crystal, for helping me. Crystal Sanka was the lady you just saw. She's helping us out with answering questions today. And keeping me on track, which we might need. All right, I think we're gonna start. Again, welcome everybody on our third webinar, Leafy Herbs and Flowers. We have the same first two slides as we always have. Once again, this building is not the building where we are. I will put up the actual photo of the building where we are at the next one. Thank you for our supporters, financial supporters. And here we go. This turtle is Turtle. He has been with us for about 10 years, I think, and we see him once in a while during the season. He shows up. He's extremely pretty. We like him. Okay, agenda today. Why doesn't this work? There you go. We're going to talk about flowers and plants, starting through seeding, starting through cuttings. Talk again about the soil. We're going to talk with a different kind of plants and flowers that you might want to grow and harvest. Of course, we're going to talk about the pest, everything that can eat what you're working so hard on. We do a little bit on the irrigation. We do a little bit on the harvesting and processing. Most of that will be included in next week, so I kind of kept that short. Especially for the harvesting I did. The market for leaves and flowers, we will discuss that more next class, which will be in 2 weeks, I believe. I do want to spend some more time on the example of the herbs. So say farewell to Turtle. Starting flowers and plants through seeds. So the first thing you think about is, I'm going to buy my seeds. I think we discussed that before. When you buy your seeds, I cannot underline this enough. Only buy seeds for medicinal herbs that you're going to sell. Only buy seeds from a company that includes the Latin name. That's the only way that you can pretty much be sure that the plant that you have is the plant that you have. There's still a couple of errors that are made every year, but as a rule, if a company doesn't mention the Latin name and you really like the company, then call them and ask them for the Latin name, so you know for sure you get what you are looking for. There's like, for instance, calendula or marigold. Sometimes they sell marigold as calendula and the other way around. You want to make sure you have what you're looking for. Soil is the second thing you're going to think about. The two photos, the one on the left is a recipe for soil that you can make yourself. There's a little older recipe. More newer recipes use rice hulls a lot. If you make your own soil, it's quite a lot of work, and you need to make sure that you have the parts that are not really like the granite dust. You need to add these oyster shells. You have to add these minerals because the plants will need that. You can buy the mycorrhizal powder that you will need as well. It's a lot of work, but it's fun to do it yourself. The one on the right is a bag from Fox, what is it? Fox Haven. It's not Fox Haven. I'm sorry. It's just a bag of soil of pretty much alternative, good quality soil, and this has all the mycorrhizae content, which will help your plants to grow. The one thing I don't really like, and I really try not to use, is any anyone that has peat moss in it, basically because that's a non-sustainable product. You harvest it and it's gone from the woods where you harvest it. Let me go on. Always add water to your seedlings, soil. Don't make it too wet. What you do is you grab, can you see this? You grab some and you make a fist. If there's water dripping out, you have too much water. So you want to stop before that's the case. If you don't do that, you can water the plants after you plant the seeds, but you have to make sure that you water it all the way till the bottom of your little pots. Important to have a flat layer. Nobody ever mentioned that. If you don't have a flat layer, the water is going to run off to one side. Logically, it's not what you want. Research of your seed germination is light dependent. Does it need light? Does it need stratification? Stratification means it needs some kind of treatment by temperature, like frost. Scarification basically means you need to damage it, cut in it. Passion flower, you want to cut the seeds, or you take sanding paper. Does it need heat or cold? Do you want to heat it? Do you want to grow them in the heat or cold outside? And air. Yeah, I mentioned air because if you put a cover on it and a dome, you have the risk that you don't have enough air and you will get fungi in it. So you don't want that neither. Do you need lighting? Do you have to buy lights, lamps that you hang above them, or can you just put them in your greenhouse? All kind of things you need to figure out before. One thing that is really very important when you just start and the seeds are just planted, do not use a regular water because the water is too big. The water drops are too big. It's going to damage them. It's too much water at the same time. So I use these little sprayers that you add on your sprayer. They work. It's a fogger. They work very well. I think we talked earlier about, do you want to use trays or do you want to have cells? I think I mentioned my feeling, if you use a tray, a whole flat one without cells, there is some kind of synergy between the seeds and they do better. It's not always the case if you plant like marigold or calendula. I have not seen any difference. Native plants, I do see a difference, and with the holy basils, the tulsis, I've seen a difference. You make your own wood boxes. Too dry is not good. Too much water is absolutely worse than having them too dry. Unless you let them dry out for a whole day. The problem with starting seeds is always when you also have a regular job that takes you away from what you really want to do. You need to come up with an automatic system and some kind of time clock. You have to put some kind of time clock and some kind of automatic sprayer or sprinkler system. So when you're gone, your seeds don't dry out. This is definitely going to be important when you have them in a greenhouse and it's going to be April, or even it's very nice weather here at the moment. Even now the greenhouses are getting warm. One thing you want to do when you have seedlings in your greenhouse is put a shade cover over your little greenhouse or your big greenhouse or your hoop house, whatever you use. If you have them in the house, the humidity is mostly not that low and you have a little bit less risk on them drying out. Other thing you can do, I didn't mention it here, but you can put your flats in another flat and have water in the other flat, or you can buy a sort of a cotton material that you put underneath it. And then the water will soak through that and your plants will be able to soak it up. You can buy these. I think Jordi sell that. That's another good solution if you're not there all the time. They're really, I'm telling this again, they're like babies. They're not going to be happy if they don't get any attention. I really have a problem with moving on with these things here. There you go. Dangers. Yes. Mice. Don't ever forget mice in your area where you have your seeds. Either your seeds stored or you're growing your seeds. The mice will eat your seed. I can guarantee you they do a lot of damage. Ants and spiders, same thing. They even eat the little seedlings. So those are the invisible. You don't really see them. Well, ants you see. And it's not all the spiders. It's some spiders are nice, other spiders are not nice. Fungi is very clear. You'll see mold. When you have fungi, the best way to do is really keep them dry for a while and see if you can scrape the mold off. If you really get fungi on it, you're lost. It's not good, and it's caused by too much water. Fungus gnats are these little creatures on the left. That's not a regular mosquito. This is a tiny little insect that flies around your soil when it's too wet because the larvae are going into the soil. And they're the ones that eat the roots of your plants and pull them down. Your plants literally, your seedlings literally disappear. If that's the case, you can buy, I did mention that here, you can buy Gnatol. I put it in the chat. It's it's an organic powder that will help when you have the fungus gnats, and you can also, as a preventative, add it to your seedling soil if you know that you're gonna have it. Your area can be too hot. Your seedlings turn red where they shouldn't be red. Seedlings turn too light of color. There can be insufficient feed, most likely minerals, or lack of food. Excessive moisture, clearly they start rotting. Not enough light is another thing. They start growing up too fast. They elongate. If you have any questions, then just put it in the chat box or in the whatever, the other box that you can use. Seedling transplanting. So now we have a situation, your little herbs are growing up nice. They have like 2 to 3 leaves, and they are all in a flat. So you don't have them in cells, you have them in flats. You will have to singulate them. And I don't know if this is actually a word, singulate. We always call it singulate, which means you take them apart and you put them in every single seedling you put in a single cell. This is a time-consuming work. If you do it often enough, you can get really quick at it. It's important that you're very careful. Do not touch the stem, only to touch the leaves. And if you do this, it also gives you an opportunity to replant them in cells and add a tiny little bit of organic fertilizer to it. That will help them grow a little bit faster and healthier. Not always needed. It kind of depends what plants you're using. What else would I say? When you transplant them outside, very important that you wait for the right moment. And definitely when you grow tropical plants, obviously they shouldn't go out when it's cold. I know we have people from different areas. Down here for tropical plants here on the Eastern Shore, we are almost in number 8 of the heat index thingy. You want to plant them in the beginning of May, mid-May. Do not plant them before. If you're higher up in the hills, in the Appalachian, in the mountains, it really varies. Do not plant them definitely before your freezing temp, the last day of frost. That also counts for the non-natives. They sometimes don't like to be out when it's freezing. If you expect a late frost, but your seedlings are already planted outside, then you want to cover them with a protection layer. So if you want to do that, to have, like I do that with calendula, to have an early harvest, if there's really a frost expected, then I cover them. And sometimes I just throw that white cover on top of it. I don't really have the whole structure. And that helps for 1 or 2 nights. You don't want to plant your transplants, your little plugs out before they are really strong. And sometimes it means you have to take them out of the cell, put them in a larger pot, and then you can plant them outside. And that really depends the plant. If we're talking the tools here, let's go back to that. You don't really need to do that as long as your root structure is really strong. So that's really what you're looking at. If you plant them in tiny little cells, which sometimes you have to do because you don't have enough room in your area where you grow, you want to have as many plants, as many seedlings as you can in a tiny little space. In that case, you want to singulate even your cells out into bigger pots. So that's when you have like really 1 inch or smaller cells in your one. Then you start transplanting them. Every single weed will grow faster than your seedlings. Just keep that as a rule. Which basically means keep everything extremely clean from the weeds. So what you do when you till before you transplant, you till and you let your tilled area, you only surface till, you let your tilled area sit for like 10 days, 2 weeks, and then you do a very slight till again to till all the little weeds that already started coming up, to till them back in. And then after you do that, then you can start planting. If you don't have the time because it's already too late, then you just have to manually or have a tool that you pull through your seedlings. So when you plant your seedlings, that brings me to another thing. You want to plant them in a straight line, so it's easy to weed in between the lines. All the way in the beginning when I started, I thought I don't like straight lines. I had worked in the horticulture and I was tired of straight lines. And it looked really cool, but it was an enormous amount of work to really keep it clean. So unless you have a lot of people, don't do that. Did I go through 2 things? No. Other thing I want to mention here is starting through cuttings, which is really a very easy way to create new plants. And you see William here with a couple of students. Actually, they're high school students. They came visiting, and it was very easy for them to make the cuttings. The cutting, you cut the top 3 nodes of a plant, and you plant them either in water or you put them in Oasis cubes, the little lightweight stuff, or you start them directly in soil, or you use hydroponic system. If you start them out in water, which is neat when you work with children because they can see the roots grow. The problem in growing in water is transferring them into the soil. The roots are not used to soil. They really get a shock when they go into the soil. So if you do that, always have a phase in between. Do not just right away plant them in the field. Oasis cubes, I did not like that originally because I didn't think it was really good for the herbs. It's not natural. We started using it because it's easy and it worked fantastic. The only thing is the Oasis cube will be visible for the rest of the life of the plant. So if you do perennials or you do native plants, it's probably not what you want to do because you don't want to introduce that. I personally don't want to introduce that for long term. So then you can do it just in regular soil. Use the cells, dip your plant in some rooting powder. You want to do that for the Oasis cubes too. Plant them in, keep them moist, put a dome on it like what you see here, and keep them warm. And in case of Oasis, you let them sit in water so that the bottom is moist. And then you put your dome on it and you don't really have to do anything. It makes its own atmosphere in there and they will slowly start rooting. And it really depends on the plant. If you have a woody plant like a lavender that turns woody at a certain level, do not use that part. Only use the fresh green new growth. The older part has a much harder time to root. When you cut them with a really sharp cutter because you do not want to damage your stems. Other thing is everything should be absolutely clean. Before you do this, you want to wash your hands. You want to have a clean surface. Your cells your flats need to be absolutely clean, because this system is very vulnerable, more vulnerable than just starting seeds. So I have some technical issue. There we go. That's a new thing we started doing last year. It's the same thing. I didn't really want to do it, but then I saw the advantage of being able to create the exact same plant that I have created by seedling. So I seed the plants, and then when they are big enough, we're going to make cuttings. And so we keep the variety of the genes that we had of the seedlings. The seedlings are never exactly the same. They are slightly different, and we keep that variety while we're making the cuttings. The cuttings are same. They're small. You put them in a rock wall or in the same oasis. You hang them in an area that either the system on the left is what we actually use. It doesn't sit in the water, but there are little pumps in the system that sprays the water against the bottom of the tray. So the soil or the oasis is continuously moist, and you keep it warm, and the seeds will come up. Or you can do it for seeds and for cuttings. In this case, we were talking about the cuttings. They will start growing. When they are big enough, you take them out and you transfer them in the soil. Do not put them out in the land right away. So you introduce an extra step. Then they will get used to the soil, and then the next step is to put them on your land. This system is not that expensive. For like $300, you have a system to make, like, what was it, 48 plants, I believe, if you go aeroponics. And it's nice because you can do it inside. It's very compact. It doesn't really require much space. And it works, but there's a limitation. If you start growing plants for the roots, like the ashwagandha we talked about, the root is not gonna create it in a way as you wanted it to be, because it's not gonna form this main root. Like, think carrots. A carrot will have 10 little carrot roots underneath. And since you want to harvest the roots, you don't really get the right shape for the roots. The system on the right is, in this case, it's absolutely not herb related. I couldn't find any other photo. You see peppers hanging in there. This is a homemade, or you can make this at home, a hydroponic system. It's the same. The only difference is the plants or the seedlings hang in the water. So you have your pipe, you buy little round nettings that you can hang in there. In either case, the system needs to be clean. It's very vulnerable. Putting this in a regular greenhouse, like it looks like what they did there, it has a really big chance that you get diseases into your hydroponic system, because it has nothing to fight off any disease, where the soil gives them more a possibility to fight it off. So it's a good solution. Just keep it clean. Soil requirements, I'll go over this real quick. I added the pH. We didn't talk about the pH earlier. Most herbs prefer slightly acidic soil. Culinary herbs do not need acidic soil. You can look up online what the best acidity is for a lot of the native plants and for several of the medicinal herbs. You can change the pH in your soil. If you start doing that, it's better to ask expert advice. Not from me, because I'm not a soil specialist. It really depends what you want to do and what you want to add, and for how long this is going to work and how much you have to add. You can throw a little lime on it, but it doesn't really, you really want to know what you're doing here. On the bottom, it's some some plants prefer more alkaline soil. It's interesting to see what the pH is when you do your test, because sometimes it varies per area in your field. So it's a good thing. Besides, if you don't want to do the whole soil test, at least buy a little pH measure at some garden store and stick it in and get your result. It's not totally reliable, but it gives you an indication. If your soil is really your pH is really low, so it's very acid, then the best thing to do in your first years is adjust what you're growing. Do not try to grow lavender in a field. It's just not going to work. Calendula is a little more flexible. Mince is a little bit more flexible, but mince will not do well in acidic soil, real acidic, like when we talk about 5.5. What time it is? Growing native tropical herbs, perennials, and biennials. Really, for the starters, it's not that much different. It's just getting your seeds, either have it warm, have it outside, or have it cold but inside. What they have in common is the weeds are always growing faster than your seedlings. Keep that in mind. Never let that discipline go. If you don't maintain it in the beginning, it's going to go out of control. It's just very, very difficult to get it back. And some seedling will pop out like chamomile. They can pop out of the grasses. So you still need to keep it clean, but if you have some weeds, it's okay. There's two reasons for weed control. One is they take the feed out of the soil. The second is when you start harvesting, you do not want to have weeds growing in between. In that case, you will have to take all the grasses out of your lemon balm that you just harvest. And that's just extra work. So what I'm saying here is you put the ground cover on. The other time we saw the BCS that we used to put the ground cover. This is some photos of the paper that I'm using. You don't need, this is official kind of paper. You can use the contractor paper for that. When you use the paper, please put soil on the sides, like you can see on the left photo. It will absolutely blow away if you don't do that. So you roll your paper out, you make it wet, you throw your soil on the side, and that prevents that it will blow away. It's going to take 3 months before it disappears. So it is a good protection. You cannot use paper in the BCS machine, in any kind of tractor. They say you can do it, but it's not going to work. You can use straw. I've been using a lot of straw in the past, up till the moment that my straw started sprouting, and that was just bad luck. But it happened 2 years in a row, and I don't use straw anymore, because then what you get is just an endless amount of grasses in between your plants. That's the last thing you want to do. Straw and wood chips, they also attract insects. You could use wood chips. They're a little heavier. They also pull out some of the feed that is in the soil. They use that in order to digest themselves. So it's not really, I'm not that positive about it, but you can do it. It's definitely, if you have free available wood chips, go for it, because it's cheaper than anything else, and it's very easy to put down. And then, do we have any questions? No questions. If you have a question, please let me know. Care for annual perennial herbs. Keep it clean. I keep on saying that, keep it clean. And one thing you need to pay attention is the grasses or whatever starts growing in between or out of the path that you have in between your beds. So you can either cover that path with plastic, with a cover, which is probably the most practical thing to do. I don't like the look of it, but it is really time consuming and labor consuming if you do that. Make sure if you do it at the end of the year, when you have the cover in between your annuals, make sure that you remove it in the winter, because the weeds will start growing through that cover that you use. Even if it's made for path, it will break down. Soil will wash on it. Other things start growing on it. It's not what you want. Other than that, you can keep it clean by light tilling in between the beds. Be careful though, if you do that, you will cause the soil particles to go onto your plants that you're going to harvest. So do not do this for at least a whole week before you harvest. You need to take even more time, because it's not just, it has to look clean, but you really want to have no soil on your plant anymore. Not only because it doesn't look right and you don't want to have sand in your teeth, you don't know what's in the soil, what kind of insect or fungi is in there. Always check for animal tracks on a regular basis. Always check for insects. Just really every day walk through and see if there is something new. Remove all your dead or your diseased stems, because they're the ones that attract a couple of pests. Out of control herbs, that's what I mean, is herbs that start growing over your path, and you don't want that. Because if you have people walking over your path and they step on your herbs, you won't be able to harvest them. If you have herbs, even if they're very useful, growing in between plants where you don't want to have them, don't feel sorry for them. You have to remove them. Just think about the harvesting. You have other plants in between, you don't like that. You can transfer them, or you make you have a diverse planting with different kind of herbs. You can do that. If you choose to have several herbs in one row or in one circle, make sure that you can harvest the flowers without damaging the leaves from the other plants, and the other way around, make sure you can harvest the leaves without damaging the flowers. So it needs to be fitting together. What you can do is have plants that stay low, like you grow calendula. If you have herbs that you harvest at different times, you can do it. But you need to plan. It's not by luck. You really have to plan it. I'm thinking about what you could do. Like we have the St. John's wort growing in between the perennial, in between the echinacea, the coneflower, and it goes well for 1 year. The next year, the St. John's wort is taking over, and you start losing even your echinacea. So don't be a little careful. Think about it. Add fertilizer, compost when needed. Take care of the path. Combine herbs based on water requirement. Yeah, clearly you don't want to have a desert plant sit next to a skullcap that is a marsh plant. Easiest is not to combine a perennial with an annual, but as I said, you can. It will work if you plan it right. Pests. In all honesty, the pests that I have seen at my own farm are almost zero. I have not ever had any major damage at my own farm.
Henriette?
So, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We had a question on the last slide about what is the best fertilizer to use?
The best fertilizer, if you, oh gosh, what's the brand? I'm not ready with that. I buy it's a regular brand. I always use an organic fertilizer for flowers. Sometimes it's flowers and vegetables. The one that I pick because I have the possibility is for flowers. But it doesn't really matter. It's easy to use an organic fertilizer because it just comes in as a powder. I do not use the mineral little balls that they're selling as fertilizer. I don't like them. I don't like anything that comes in little bullets, because they're not going to dissolve equally over your whole area. So you have certain areas, like the lower areas, you get more of those little bullets, little balls, and so you have more over there. I always go for the powder, and I just buy the organic ones, and I can share my brand. It's a very regular brand. They come in fluids too. You can use fish. Fish, what is it? Based on the fish bones, whatever. I cannot use it where I live, where I grow my plants, because and that this is for a lot of people. It attracts rodents, it attracts any kind of animal that likes fish. So be careful if you do that. The other thing is often it has shrimp powder in it, which there are people that work in your garden that are allergic for shrimps. You have to think about a lot of things. There are expensive products where you have two kind of fluids that you combine. You do first one and then the other one. You can do it if you're very small. If you're larger, that's going to be expensive. If you're very large, you can add your fluid fertilizer in your irrigation system. But stick to the organic. I hope that answered. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. Pests. There is this website from University of Maryland that is really, really cool. It has the best photos of pests. Anyhow, what I was going to say, when I was only farming my own farm, I had no pests. As soon as I started growing here at UMES, we were kind of invaded with all kind of different creatures that I wasn't familiar with. A reason is this is a very unnatural area where we are. It used to be a cornfield, soybeans, and the natural balance was just not there. There, my own area had more natural areas around it, and it had never ever been a modern agriculture. So the balance was better, and with that comes an easier pest control. So what we see here at school is the flea beetles. Talked about that. They will eat your ashwagandha. Japanese beetles, we all know them. They can really demolish your echinacea flowers. They also like elderberries. They can eat any kind of flower. A good way of protecting for them is, in my opinion, is do not try to attract them with those beetle traps. They will only attract more. Unless you hang them really, really far away, at least like, I don't know, like 500 feet. Do not hang them on the side of your field. It's pretty fatal. An easier way is to plant additional echinaceas on the side of your field so they don't go over there. Have some elderberries on the side of your field. Grasshoppers, anytime we use straw, we get grasshoppers. I kind of like grasshoppers, but when I realized how much they eat, I didn't really like them anymore. Potato beetles, because I'm not really an expert in beetles, I call everybody a potato beetle. And with that, I mean any kind of beetle that looks like the thing that we see here. This is not even a beetle. It's a four-line plant bug. Very original name for a bug with 4 lines. This one takes tiny little bites, and there's a lot of these kind of bugs that take tiny little bites that causes these black spots. If you have them, you start drying them. The black spots is like where the green is eaten away. You can look through the leaves. When you start drying these, it looks bad. People won't buy it. So when you have it, keep it under control, or just give up most or a part of your plant. The rule is if not more than a quarter gets eaten, just live with it. So in this case, you can pick them off. That is just a labor-intensive work, but you can do that. You can try spraying with neem or any of the organic insecticides or pesticides.
Henriette,
You will have that? Yes.
we have a whole bunch of questions.
Wow.
Came in at the same time, sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
So Yes, you answered the question about the fertilizer well enough.
Uh-huh.
A follow-up question was the flower insect link on the slide. I missed that.
The what?
Flower insect link on the slide? Was there
Oh,
a
the
slide?
H. Uh-huh. Oh, I cannot copy that.
Oh, it's this one right here. I can put that in the chat in a minute.
Can
Christy,
you
I'll
put
do
it
that
in
for
the
you in
chat?
just a second.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, next, this is such a great session. Do you have any natural solution to keep voles away? I know they are totally different from mites, I'm
well,
guessing, but just wanted to know, have you experienced voles and how to keep them away?
I know voles are horrible. I don't have them here. I don't think there's many of them here. Voles they eat the roots, they pull it down, they put the plant underneath, and they just simply disappear. And no, I don't have a natural method for that. I'm very sorry. I can, you know what? I should figure that one out. I know if you have, this is a problem with the time where agriculture is so controlled and everybody needs a GAP certification. Normally, you could have a dog that eats both, that chases away both the voles and the molds. Not as good though with voles. No, I do not have a solution. I promise you, I will look that up and we will discuss this next time. Okay? Any other question, Crystal?
Yes, if you have aphids on calendula, what do you use to control them?
If I have aphids on calendula, a lot of aphids, what do I do for I spray with neem oil.
Neem?
Neem, but the problem is do not spray it on the flowers. So you have, and this is in general, do not spray with anything right before you start harvesting. The best thing, the neem oil works for the aphids. Do not spray it during the day, only use it early in the morning or later in the evening, because if you use it during the day, it will burn into your plants. So that will work, just be careful. That's why I'm saying walk through your garden, walk through your herbs and check, because if you just find it when it just started, you can still get rid of it. If you let it go free for 4 or 5 days, it's going to be really hard. The best prevention is maintenance, is walking, is watching. Any more, Crystal?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay, very good.
Everyone, before I go, I want to remind you that Henriette will be sharing the slides after the session as well, and the links will be live there, but I will make an effort to have the links that she's presenting in the moment copied to you in the chat.
Thank you. Irrigation, use of drip lines. This is an ad from Drip Depot, or just a photo from them. I'm going to run over this. There's different views on how you're going to irrigate, or are you going to irrigate. One thing, when you have transplants, you almost always want to water them when you plant them. And with like a summer like last year, where we had 2 months of no water, I hate to see my plants die. Even although you can say it's a medicinal herb, they only get strength by following the natural area. You still need to make a living, and it's better to keep them alive by installing an irrigation system. This is basically all what you need. One thing that's important is that you will be able, if you do it, that you will be able to turn off the supply to the plants that need less water. So I have like my skullcap and my meadowsweet, I have ongoing. Every time I irrigate, they get water. Where my calendula doesn't, my chamomile doesn't. I don't even water my chamomile because it's early in the season. Where the tulsis, they need to be irrigated once in a while. So you wanna be able to close it off. And then you can go as fancy as you want, and it really depends how big your garden is. Harvesting of the leaves. Got the stem about 8 inches high. Yeah, what I mean is basically when you harvest the leaves, this was the lemon balm. You harvest the stem with the leaves. Obviously, you're not gonna pick the leaves off separately. And you cut through while you're giving the plant a chance to regrow. So you're not going to cut it down all the way till the bottom of the plant. You keep a couple of inches above there, and it kind of depends what plant of it. Case of lemon balm, they have a tendency to get to lose their leaves on a lower level. So you want to cut it off where there's still a couple of green leaves left. Every time.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Here's another question about the pests, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Is it better to cement the ground of her greenhouse that surrounds the plants and herbs, or to have pebbles or soil on the ground instead to prevent rodents from coming underground?
Oh my goodness. Again, let me read this myself. Oops. Let me read this again. I kind of lost it. I think for rodents, if you have a greenhouse and that's the question, you have rodents that come into your greenhouse?
I think that's the question. Yeah. Should she have some like cement or pebbles or soil on the ground? Or should she have a cement pad on which her greenhouse sits?
Yeah, you can do that, but that will ultimately break. It's better to have a netting, like a chicken wire, duct it in, like a foot, and then let it go over your first layer of your greenhouse. You first go 1 foot deep and 1 foot up into your greenhouse. I remember in the past we had all the greenhouses and we always had a stone underneath. It didn't start directly on the soil. It started on the stones. Every older greenhouse has that. The modern hoop houses, you can easily dive underneath and come in. So then the chicken wire is the way to go. If you do cement, you will still have a problem to connect the two. So let the wire overlap the plastic of the hoop house. I hope that helped. You have to be very careful for mice in your hoop houses, and if you have a greenhouse, those things they can really eat your seeds. So you will have to have, in some cases, you have to put 20 of the little mouse traps in there. When you go back to the harvest the leaves, I'm running out of time as usual. Make sure that you don't stack it up too high. The stack that you see here on my sheet, that's about as high as you can get. If you stack it up higher, there's too much weight on the leaves on the bottom and they will discolor. Definitely vulnerable plants like lemon balm. Lemon balm is very, it's just very vulnerable. It grows very well, but in the drying process, it's kind of more vulnerable than nettle or tulsi or skullcap even is easier. If you have dirt on it, wash them in cold water. You can just spray them off. Don't let them sit in the sun for too long. It's not, they're just gonna deteriorate. Harvest flowers. When you harvest the flowers, try to harvest them as I did here with the calendula. Very, very short stem. When you sell them, people don't want to see that stem. You lose value. And since you're cutting them anyhow, you can as well cut them directly under the plant. As a whole, harvesting flowers, just the flowers, is labor intensive and it's back breaking because you have to bow forward to pick them. We just noticed the other day that the prices that you are paying for dried calendula have gone up enormously in the last year. You probably can find a market that actually will pay for your labor in order to pick it. That would be nice. Same thing, don't let them sit out in the middle. If you have echinacea that has like a big, strong center in the plant, you want to cut them in quarters so they can, before you dry them, so they can dry. Keep them cool, put them in the shade. Okay, I can have a quick start on the different plants that you can grow. As I said earlier, the marketing, the processing, we will discuss that next class, next webinar. So I have 10 minutes to run through the herbs that I wanted to discuss. So listen good. And again, what I've said before, if you have questions, especially now people start seeding, just give me a call or send me an email. I will answer. Tulsis, I don't call it holy basil anymore. This is an older slide. I'm sorry for that. We don't call it holy basil because it's actually not a holy plant for everybody. It's only for certain areas where it's considered holy. There are 5 different, yeah, I should have corrected this. So the funny thing with anything with plants, the people that are deciding on the names of the plants, they are in an ongoing disagreement on the names, the naming. It's not only for herbs, it's for every kind of plant that you can grow. So this was in the past, and this still, it's actually not too bad. There's 5 different kind of tulsis. And the Amrita is actually, I haven't found it anymore. It's basically the same as the Krishna. It's just, it used to have a different name. The main difference is the Amrita is very hard to grow. The seeds don't come up. The plant stays smaller, but it's worth it because the taste is fantastic. The photo on the left top is Amrita. The seeds are also more expensive. Let me see, I just bought them. The Krishna is hard to grow. The Krishna is more expensive too. That's the next one. It also has purplish leaves. Relatively easy to grow if you compare it to Amrita, but it's really not. When you have them started, it's growing well. Probably 60% of your seeds will come up. Don't blame the seed seller. It's just the kind of plant it is. When you start saving your seeds, you see a huge improvement. It's clearly they have to get used to your circumstances. With my saved seed, I have about 80% of success. So that's good. Krishna, more purple. Rama is what I use for the teas. I like it the best for the teas. Temperate is the one that is easiest to grow and is the fastest to grow. The teas is still very nice. They're a little bit more vulnerable when you harvest them. Vana is actually looks like a totally different plant. It's a plant, the top right. They get 4 feet high. They can get really big. Their leaves are more velvet. They're kind of soft. They have a clove taste to it. All these different types need a lot of water. They do not well.
Hey, Baron.
Yes. Was there a question? Okay. Here's some info on the Tulsi. What you can see here is when you plant the plants 1.5 foot distance, you actually have a higher. Your harvest is actually more than when you have it on 1 foot distance because the plants grow bigger and better quality.
Henriette,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have questions.
Yes.
Where did you get the seeds?
The seed for the Tulsi I always buy at Strictly Medicinal because
Okay.
in my opinion that's the only company that can guarantee me that the seeds that they sell are actually the seeds that they say they're selling. You can buy, it's getting a little bit easier. You can buy them at other places, but very often the only one they sell is the temperate. They say we're selling Tulsi, but you're getting the temperate. So it's limited. I do think that it has improved, but I would say buy them there and buy them quick because they're gonna run out.
Next question is, what is the name of the yellow flower on the previous slide? Was that calendula?
That was calendula. The calendula comes in yellow and in really nice orange.
Thank you. And then the for the Tulsi, the ossicum or whatever that was, that's the Latin name, correct?
The Osminum is the Latin name, yes.
Okay, so whatever else it's called, someone should look for that Latin name, correct?
Yeah, but you want to have, let me see. Yeah, they have two different Latin names. I should have mentioned that. Tenuiflorum, and the other one is there's two names, but I only have the Tenuiflorum. You have to really be specific. So you have to search them on the non-Latin name and then see the difference. This is where it went wrong in the past with the naming. They changed the Latin names. I'm lost at it.
Okay,
Next year will be different again. Yes.
Christy, I'm gonna do some research and get you those proper names later,
Yeah.
okay?
I can send them out when I send out the slides.
Thank you.
Let me write it down. Latin Tulsi. All right, in the meantime, you guys have been able to read this. So the funny thing is, this is not only for the Tulsi, of course, this is for more plants. You plant the calendula too close, you're going to have less healthy plants. So you can plant more plants, but your harvest actually decreases. So you grow more plants, you plant them too close, you have less harvest than when you grow less plants. So just do a little study. It's for almost all the plants. You never want them too close. If you grow lemongrass, you plant them too close, they're pushing each other away and the quality gets less too. We will go over how much you can expect. One thing you want to see in the bottom here, 33 pounds of fresh Rama plant only gives you 1.9 pounds dried. It's not even 6% of your original weight. So don't count yourself rich before you realize this. Peppermint, we all know peppermint. Peppermint wants shade. If they have too much sun like these have, they will shoot into flower too quick. You cannot grow them from seeds. The seeds just, if you see peppermint seeds for sale, it's nonsense. You're gonna buy some kind of other mint. Buy the plugs. We will most likely have peppermint plants available when we have the field day here. So everybody can get a few, not enough to plant an acre, but it's a good start. It's very easy if you start out with one flat with plugs for like $90. I think you get like 24 plants. Within a year, you can create hundreds of plants. Shea, first year, very little harvest. Yeah. It was more than I expected. Keep them moist and harvest them before they look like these. And it's invasive. Here's more calendula. This is one thing we're almost over time. You see the path on the side of the calendula. It's very well weeded. And we did this with a tiny lightweight rototiller, just walked through it every 4 or 5 days. And that's where I started realizing I'm getting seeds I get sand on my calendula plants and flowers. So be careful. Harvest flowers before they set seeds. Always. While you're drying them, they will come out more. If you do not dry them, but you make a tincture of them, it doesn't matter. Then you basically want them before they set seed, but you want them a little bit further out than when you use them for drying. Calendula, they will die off down here in the middle of the summer. It's not, you won't be able to grow them through August. They might come back in September. You might also do a second seedlings in September or in August. I think this is all for today. St. John's wort. The top photo was 1 year. The second photo was a second year. It got a fungal disease that is specific for St. John's wort, so it disappeared. If I had figured it out on time, but I wasn't paying attention, I didn't think that there was a fungal disease. I thought it was just a natural process. I could probably have done something about it, but in this case, I didn't, and we just replanted it on another spot and it did fine. Let's stop with the St. John's wort. I love St. John's wort. It gives an absolutely fantastic oil. Any farmer can grow St. John's wort and just cut it in pieces, put it in oil, and create your own healing wound oil for when you cut yourself, if anything.
Henriette,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I seem to be a step behind. Okay. We have a question. Why can't you grow peppermint from seeds? I have. Can I not use those plants?
Yeah, if you have grown peppermint from seed, you don't have peppermint. For whatever reason, you cannot grow them. They're not fertile. So
Okay.
what you want to do is do a test. Have an official peppermint and compare that to what you have. And then you will see, is it really the same? Then you're lucky that you have another plant that is very similar. And you can just use it. Find a use for it, don't get rid of it.
So if I understand correctly, you're saying that the seeds that a peppermint plant throws are not fertile.
Exactly. They
Okay,
don't
but if they grow from seed, how are they not fertile?
then you did not have peppermint. You might have had spearmint or whatever other kind of mint.
Okay, thank you.
It's a risk. The rule really is it's not fertile. And you might have an exception. That I don't know. And in order to make sure that you have what you have, compare it with the plant that somebody grows that really is, that knows it's peppermint. Okay.
Thank you.
It's 1 o'clock, so I can continue or I can stop. I feel a little bit bad that we don't go over all the plants. German chamomile we did before. Agramonia, I wanted to add agramonia because it's one of the flower essences. We'll talk more about flower essence. It's a really neat, it's a gorgeous plant. I really like it. And it's a very nice, if you want to make flower essence, this is one that you should have. It's also a strong kidney herb. It's used in kidney medicines, but you have to be careful with it. There is an agramonia rust. If you grow this and you get the rust, it will go over to your roses, if you have roses. So be careful, or to your hawthorn. It's a tricky thing. And there's nothing you can do about it. I had this studied by somebody who actually studied the agramonia rust and he gave up on it. It's lost. What you can do with rust, though, my experience is add compost to the soil. Weird enough, that seems to give them the strength to beat it off. It doesn't always happen. Go to cola. It's a really topical plant. You can grow it from seeds. It's hard. It's really hard. You can do it. I have managed to grow like 3 plants from like 2 seed bags. It takes very long. Keep them in a greenhouse or in a warm spot. It's a very, very popular plant because it helps your memory. And with the people getting older, on average, there's more and more interest in memory supporting herbs. It tastes nice. Well, yeah, it's not too bad tasting. You can make it into a tea or you can sell it fresh because some people add it to their salads. So it's a good plant to grow. It's a ground cover. It grows very, very well. It's might get invasive if you are more south. They normally survive a winter here. I'm pretty sure that this year all the plants that I have are gone. It has been too cold. Bacopa is a similar plant. It doesn't look similar, but it grows the same way, and it's also a tropical plant, and it's also used for your brain power. Go to cola is used for more things than that, though. If you have children, or you know you're going to have children visiting in the fall or in September, these are perfect, absolutely perfect. They look crazy. It gets any child interested in plants, in flowers. It's also a nice experiment to have people chew on a leaf because it numbs your mouth, which is, if you have anybody visiting your farm that thinks all these herbal medicine is just nonsense, let them chew on a spillentus leaf. They come in two versions. They have the ones like this, and they have the ones that are totally yellow. These are definitely my favorite. They will come back. They self-seeds, but not on the spot where you want them. Passion flower. This is a very aggressive plant. The vine will grow extremely high up in trees, and the squirrels will eat your seeds, your fruit, and bring them a mile away, and then you will find another passion flower over at your couple of neighbors down the road, which I personally don't mind. It's a native plant and they're pretty, so who cares? It's hard to start from seeds. You have to scarify the seeds. You need to cut through them, not throw them, but you have to damage the seed hole. If you have had them 1 year, they will come back next year. It just takes a while. You give up. Most people give up on them. It will be at least through mid-June before they start growing. When they start growing, they're crazy quick, but it takes a long time before they come. You can buy the tropical ones. You don't have to in order to use them as an herb. Lemongrass. One thing to realize, there's two kinds of lemongrass. This is the flexuosus. This is what you want to use for teas. There's also the citronella, which is used for the roots. When you want to make a good Thai food, then you use them. The bottom of the stems here, the roots are not very thick of the flexuosus, so you cannot really use it as food. The cool thing of this is they're very easy to grow. They look like grass when they start coming up. They grow very, very fast when they are. They need moisture. And you cut them about 1 foot high, they will come back. And they will come back. And they will come back. It's a very economical plant. The problem is more in chopping them up than in the harvest. We'll talk about that too. Skullcap. Just read this when you get the PowerPoint. Skullcap prefers shade. By the way, this was one way that I did to prevent the weeds, the grasses from growing in. It worked really, really well. I happened to have a lot of these pieces of wood from an old fencing that I used. It's getting very expensive to do this from wood that you buy, but you can do it. It did rot away at the end. That's all the plants that I have. I think we had this before. If you want to you want to follow this link. I'll post that too, only if you're in Maryland. This is my frog. One of the fun part of having an herb garden is that there's so many creatures that are really not doing any damage and they just cool. So this is, we have a lot of them. If you have any questions, send me an email. Here's the email, or give me a call and I will answer them. The website on the bottom here, the extension, that is where we will post the video. So where you found the videos the first time, you will be finding the video for this webinar. Let me see, are there any questions?
Yes, Henriette, I have one, and it was a follow-up, which I believe was a follow-up to the peppermint seed issue. Sasha asks, does that mean that some companies are monetizing off of seeds that are not actually what's in the packaging? Just curious. Is it better to work with a nursery rather than buying seeds out of the store?
That you want to buy seeds from a good company. And you want to buy seeds from a company that sells a lot of medicinal herbs. if you have a company that only sells like a few of them, they're not specialized in it. So then you take that risk. If you go to one of the companies that I have named earlier, like Vetco or Richters, and they're larger companies, but they have a specialty in medicinal herbs, especially the Richters, and strictly medicinal. They are really the ones that are specializing in it. Now, none of them, if you're in Maryland, they're not local. The Richters is more local than the guy in Oregon, and they have a more similar growing climate. So they, in general, they do a little bit better. There's a lot of other herb companies, definitely the newer herb companies that are going to have a lot of medicinal herbs. They start out getting them. So it's worth trying. But yeah, to answer your question, there's absolutely seed companies that sell you seeds that are not the seeds that they say they are. I don't know if they do that consciously or not, but yeah, you just have to be careful. Definitely when you start using them, when you start selling your products. If it's just for you, you can take the risk. But if it's not just for you, you cannot take that risk. You have to do the trick with what's your Latin name, at least, and visit their website. Give them a call. Like there's a company, Seeds of India. They have really cool, they don't really have that many medicinal herbs, but they have some Indian. And their website kind of wasn't very good. And I called them and I just basically asked the question, where's your seeds coming from? Can you give me the Latin name? And then, in the answer, the way they answer, do they know what they're doing or do they really not have any idea? And they just buy these seeds from somebody in somewhere and resell them. So just call them. If they don't answer phone calls, don't even think about buying. So be a little tough. But again, the newer companies, give them a try. They start really developing good seeds as well for herbs. Any more questions?
We've been asked if you can share a list of sellers of medicinal herb seeds, and I thought that would be a good thing to include in the email.
I will do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it will not be complete, but it has a couple. Yeah, more than a couple.
Okay,
Okay.
anyone have any more burning questions, or shall we leave them to direct contact?
Yeah, just shoot me an email if you still have questions.
Okay, her email address is Ouden. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Henriette.
You are welcome. Or give me a call.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for coming.
We'll share the slides and we will share the video again. And then we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.